Which video game soundtrack, song INSTATLY triggers you emotionally?
For me that would be RDR2, Stand Unshaken, which if it doesn't bring me to tears it's pretty f***ing close. Days Gone, Soldier's Eye, which I find very emotive, and Skyrim soundtrack, just because it brings me back a lot of memories and make me happy.
Which are yours?
The title theme of Ocarina of Time will always transport me right back to the little couch in my bedroom at 12 years old. So many emotions of a simpler time of my life wrapped up in that song.
Almost every song from that game makes me feel this way.
As much as I love the whole soundtrack, there's just something about the title theme that hits differently for me.
The little ocarina riff at the beginning is rainy Saturday mornings with a bowl of cereal and cozy sweatshirt all wrapped up in 6 notes. Do 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 o o o o o o doodle oo. Oh, if I could relive any feeling it might be the one you described.
A Saturday morning of cereal and tea, maybe some morning cartoons thrown in there, jump on the bike and ride to my buddy Luke's house, round him up, see if Sam is around.
Start some street hockey. Maybe shoot hoops, go to one of our houses for lunch.
Mess around all afternoon doing whatever came to us. Back home for dinner and some more Zelda, bedtime in my cozy PJs and bed.
Absolute bliss. I teared up a bit reading that. Feels so far away now.
I feel like I know Sam and Luke as well as you do with that story. Very similar to my Saturday routine, plus staying up for Toonami for DBZ. And Adult Swim for Futurama. The feeling of being able to explore an entire world for the first time was insane. To this day, any rendition of Zelda's Lullaby instantly transports me back to those days and takes me on a nostalgia trip through all the games and adventures along the way as well as growing up.
It's great and painful at the same time. First game I thought of when I saw the title of this post was Ocarina of Time.
That entire soundtrack makes me remember when life was simpler as a kid.
We had the pianist play this song as the opening in our wedding ceremony, haha.
It's absolutely insane how Koji Kondo was able to invoke such intense emotions out of a sound chip from a hardware that could only manage 64 MB total. It's my 13th birthday and my parents moved mountains to get me the gold cartridge edition of this game a mere 2 days after its launch.
I was so happy and thankful, it nearly brought me to tears. We all gathered around to see what all the hype was about, commercials on TV and in theaters, countless articles about the game's development, perfect 10s from game critics. I was ready for the opening to blow me away. But it did one better. It opened with the subtle, meandering ocarina against Doo.
SK with Link riding his steed.
Not a giant, sweeping orchestra like I expected. No, this is a game for big boys.
There will be adventure, there will loss, moments of yearning for what came before and a thirst to see what lay beyond the horizon. My parents quietly left the room and let me be, allowing me to soak in the moment, the calm before an unparalleled quest.
I grew up a little that day in late November. My appreciation for my parents and the experience they gifted to me, like the spirit of this masterwork and its hero, has never dimmed. Weight of the world-ending E version, Nier Automata. Fun fact, on that version of the song developers sang too. Any version of Emil's theme as well. Emil's Sacrifice. No spoilers, music only. https://www.youtube.com/watch?v=verask_0wc.
This version's relation to a specific event in Nier Replicant. Full spoilers. https://youtube.be/y5ngq0m7c/c=zhspvdl-mx1 and t=432.
Just in case you don't know, https://youtube.be/j_8kbino. There is all versions of Emil on YouTube, which is insane imho.
Every day's a sale. Every sale's a win.
My boy Emil has been through so much sad face. For me it's always the Themen Park song. I love that theme so much that I made it my ringtone. Was about to say Automata. Te hole ost is just okay hand light skin tone chef's kiss.
Was looking for this answer. Great game, great music.
That one makes me ugly cry. I held on until that moment happened in the game. I couldn't hold it in anymore after that. Hell, I teared up just reading this comment. Came here to say copied city, but I'm glad someone else said near before me. I also love the sound of the end when it gets about halfway and changes to the music box and choir, so haunting. I imagine it's what you'd hear when you die and are entering the afterlife. I also like Bipolar Nightmare of the Automata soundtrack.
My first choice too. But what's this about the devs singing too?
Were they the background choir going, da 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 da? Yes.
It was said that they sang it greater than. To give us encouragement after we accept the help. And to say something like you got us with you on this hardship. Less than.
IDK, is it true or not? If it is true, I think it was the peak of game media that ever exists.
Regardless of whether it's true, I think it's the current peak of video games as an art form.
It utilizes the unique qualities of video games in ways no other art form ever could. And greater than. Fighting the credits, rejecting the set endings, and beating up the developers so the characters could be free, so that a future can be taken for yourself. Less than.
It's a very poetic way of acknowledging that at a certain point, the characters belong more to the players and the community than they do to the company. Not speaking legally, of course, but Jeff Kaplan, when he was still kicking ass as the director of Overwatch, had a similar sentiment about the characters belonging to the community.
But in Nier
Automata, the devs outright just go kill God, set them free. Came to say this exactly.
In the Japanese version of the song, you can even hear the singer about to cry at points.
Glad you say, ending E version, didn't reveal the real song title since it is a greater than. Spoiler. Less than.
Want You Gone from Portal 2. It reminds me of when I finished that masterpiece and realized I'd never experience it for the first time ever again. Not, Want You Gone, but that ridiculous opera sung by the turrets just before that always breaks me. It's so unexpected, so sincere, so beautiful, and completely insane. Especially after that ending. Greater than especially after that ending. Agreed. P2's ending is a masterpiece, and the moment the turret chorus kicks in full force is one of my favorite memories of playing games. I'm convinced that Portal 2's ending is the best example of Chekhov's gun in a video game.
Greater than. Want to go to space. Less than. SPAAAAAACCCCCEEEEEEEEEE.
So here we are again. It's always such a pleasure. Remember when you tried to kill me twice? You can experience it for the first time again in a way by having others play it. I do like it, but this was triumph. I'm making a note here, huge success. Skyrim, The Streets of Whiterun.
Every single time.
Even just hearing those first few notes is enough.
For me it's Secunda.
Fuck, I miss Jeremy Soule. He also made the soundtracks to the PC Harry Potter games back in the day. Those are good too.
You can really hear they're made by the same dude if you listen to both.
I will stop what I'm doing and just enjoy the scenery when Secunda starts playing. It's easily one of my favorite pieces of music, ever. I secunda this. For me it's Far Horizons. The London Symphony Orchestra version for the 10th anniversary of the game is actually in my top 3 songs of all time. Oh yeah, his PS1 HP soundtrack slaps AF. I first heard his work in Total Annihilation, 1997, and thought it was just fantastic that a strategy game had such a classical soundtrack with such high production. At the time, the next closest thing was the rock music in the C&C franchise or the mix of rock orchestra in StarCraft, which was good but very stereotypical of video games and their reliance on driving, cool-sounding music. Total Annihilation was a big breath of fresh air auditorily. Later I'd find out he was the same guy who
Composed music for the Elder Scrolls series, and even though I was not at all his peer, I was just some pimple-faced teenager in the 2000s playing games he'd contributed to. There was a sort of pride by proxy in knowing he was still doing well for himself and hadn't just been a one-time contributor to a game I played in the 90s.
Fun fact: Jeremy Soule was only 22 years old when he made that soundtrack.
It's depressing comparing yourself to such prolific people.
Hearing Secunda for the first time was magical. I remember walking through a blizzard in the mountains of Skyrim at night.
The moment I heard it, I stopped and took it in.
Somehow, it became a core memory. The second time was also at night when I witnessed the aurora for the first time. I hope he somehow makes it back for TES6. Every time I hear it I find myself back in Whiterun. Do you often get to the Cloud District?
Oh, what am I saying, of course you don't.
Honestly, every soundtrack of Skyrim feels so nostalgic for me. It's the main theme of Morrowind for me. Hearing those slow drum beats mimicking the heart before the flute kicks in with that melody gives me so much nostalgia. The transition from melancholy and lonely to hopeful to heroic with each progression of the theme is so good. Skyrim soundtrack is just as magical as the game itself, which being a game with dragons and spells and shit is pretty nuts. Emerging from the escape route from underneath Helgen and realizing I'm in a different world when, under an ancient sun, starts will always give me goosebumps. The whole game just oozes atmosphere and it's so easy to become immersed in it while you're playing. For me it's from past to present.
Far Horizons for me.
Legit fall asleep to Far Horizons on repeat. All songs from Chrono Trigger and Secret of Mana. Also Mass Effect 3. Replaying ME3 atmospheres. I'd forgotten how hard the music hits. The mournful music as Shepard escapes Earth interrupted by the giant Baram as a Reaper slams down, got me just as much this time as the first. And everything from Chrono Trigger is a masterpiece. That exact scene in ME3 was what first popped into my mind when reading OP's question. Enjoy your replay. Greater than Mass Effect 3. Leaving Earth always gives me chills. One of the most powerful openings ever. The ME1-like melody that plays after curing the genophage is what does it for me.
I straight up had tears, it was so powerful.
ME3 was, and still is, an emotional ass blasting. To faraway times is what I would think about if I was an actor who needed to cry on command. Frog's theme.
Holy hell, he is a good man Frog.
Chrono Trigger and Secret of Mana for me as well. I've bought many different iterations of their soundtracks on different mediums. A Wish, from Secret of Mana, perfectly encapsulates walking around a forest covered in snow while flakes still fall gently from the sky.
Takes me back to being a kid and makes me tear up every time. The opening to Secret of Mana with the barking of wild animals in the darkness being silenced by the roar of a great beast and then this gentle, reflective title track hits is so unbelievably good.
Millennial Fair, Secret of the Forest, Frog's theme, and Battle with Magus. So many memorable tracks. Leaving Earth and I Was Lost Without You always hurt hearing. I almost want to do another run of the trilogy just to romance Talai again. Chrono Trigger absolutely. Replaying CT now on a phone emulator. Such comfort food before bed, and so much better than mindless phone tapping games.
Had to go too far down to find Chrono Trigger.
The entire game is a masterpiece.
The game responsible for making me a gamer.
Memories of Green from Chrono Trigger always gets me. Plin Plin Plon. Hits even harder during Soul of Cinder. That's the end, bro.
The real end.
It's over.
And it was amazing. I can't link the flame in DS3. It's just not right.
Not fair, to everyone living in it.
Especially once we see what happens to Ariandel.
Let the fire fade. Let it end. Let the cycle be free to move on at last.
Such a beautiful IP. The absolute peak of dark fantasy in gaming in my opinion.
The worst is that the Age of Dark isn't even what people in world think it is. It's the Age of Man.
That's all it is. But to Guyon, that may as well have been a death sentence. Especially after the hell he'd done to them.
He cursed their very souls. The age of man shouldn't have a dark sign around the sun.
But it does.
Because of Guyon. Guyon poisoned the age of man forever.
Their only hope to ever truly escape is to flee into a painting for the unwanted.
Painted from the blood of a pure, dark soul.
What a perfect fucking pull.
I had no expectation we'd be hearing that song again,
but as the fire faded to its last whimper, its final call was for the man who started this all.
We laid Guyon to rest so long ago, but we never killed his spirit. It was always there, tending to its flame.
After linking the flame like such a mindless idiot in DS1, it was duty, not pity, that led me to take his life again. Dark Souls is poetry in its purest form.
It doesn't even need words to convey the pain and
sorrow that is held in this last fight. Especially since, for all we know, we could have been one of the first Hallows to ever fail to kindle the flame.
One of the first bodies Gwyn added to the pile. We were one of the last to be called, after all. Lol, the plin-plon so tremendous that you can say, plin-plon, and people know what you're talking about.
Does that get you burnt?
It's parrying time. I had a clip where I soul-massed him while carrying and reposted immediately after, resulting in an instant kill.
The song couldn't even get to the second plong.
My ass immediately equipped a parry shield by pure instinct when that music kicked in. This was too far down in the comments. I am ashamed of you gamers.
Majula theme for me. OMG same. DS2 was far inferior to DS1 and DS3 play-wise, but the Majula theme is far and beyond the best music piece in the entire franchise.
Really nailed the sound of what a place for respite should feel like. Final Fantasy X, the opening song. To Zanarkand. And then you hear the song again once you arrive to Zanarkand. That moment alone is 9,999 tenths. With the right crest and sigil it goes up to 99,999 tenths. For me, the Mount Gagazet theme, https://www.youtube.com/watch?v equals nuzuk-hvRTS closing parenthesis and the story that accompanies it. Servants of the Mountain, People of the North legit is one of the hardest songs ever. Even as a kid when I stepped into that zone I was like, oh, it's serious.
Getting chills thinking about it. This was extra impactful because they stopped swapping to the battle music for random encounters there, so the mood really built up.
I wish more games did that.
It makes areas feel so much more real and unique when you don't have the area theme song interrupted every 15 seconds with the battle theme.
A fleeting dream, smiley face. When it was played during Distant World concert last year, I felt those warmthish inside my lungs, chest, heart, whatever. To Zanarkand and the Cosmo Canyon theme always take me back. Listen to my story.
This may be our last chance.
Now. This is it. Now is the time to choose.
Die and be free of pain, or live and fight your sorrow.
Top 3 hypest moment in the entire franchise. To Zanarkand is the single best video game music song of all time, period.
Listen to my story.
Instant tears.
Final Fantasy IX and X menu themes both remind me of summers as a child where nothing mattered and the 6 weeks off school felt like an eternity. FFX was my first RPG way back when and taught me that video games were also a great way to tell a story like movies or television.
I experienced emotions playing that game that nothing on TV or a movie had made me experience yet at that point in my life.
FFX will always hold a special place in my heart.
Same here. I can't believe I started with FFX, even though I was rabidly obsessed with FFVII when it released.
The artwork and the cutscenes just blew my mind, but I didn't have a PS1.
Fast forward a few years, and we get a PS2 for Christmas. I traded in Devil May Cry for Final Fantasy X and was immediately hooked.
After I beat FFX, I went and picked up FFVII, FVIII, and FFIX and played them start to finish multiple times.
Agreed with the game, but a different song, scene. I get triggered off of Yuna's wedding scene to Seymour.
It's the beginning of the song for me when Titus and his friends are sliding down the lines to crash her wedding and fight their way through until they reach the top.
And the music during the cutscene when Sin is finally defeated.
FF10 was narrative brilliance. I haven't really liked any Final Fantasy since then.
Hymn of Faith. Honorary mention, Eternity, Memory of Light Waves from X2.
To Xanarkand, the single best piece of video game music ever made emo. The amount of emotion, both nostalgic and current, that song brings out of me every time I hear it is magic. Nothing else I've come across so rapidly reminds me of being a careless kid playing my games after school and getting lost in that entire world.
It's been 20+ years, and it's still my favorite game of all time.
Came here to post this one.
To Xanarkand is beautiful.
That game is full of amazing tracks.
All of the hymns of the faith are incredible too. Stop, I still cry at the end of the game every
single
time. Wandering Flame. Playing through right now.
That song is beautiful.
And don't you have the feeling of getting back home when listening to the Besaid theme song?
The Calm Lands song gets me.
It feels like the beginning of the end. Okay, so the track Via Purifico from FFX is entirely slept on. You all should give it a listen. For me, it's a matter of having a brain large enough where I could emotionally invest in characters. I'm 35 now. I think FF10 was the first time I got pulled into a story which had an emotional impact on me. I was very invested in the characters. Being a teenager at the time, with hormones amiss and chaotic, I felt desperation and devastation equally. I don't think I've been able to feel that way in a long time. I'm too grown up, and have too many emotional regulators in place.
The Ost W. As very atmospheric and fit the tragedy of the narrative incredibly well.
I still sometimes think about some of the other storylines that could have been explored. Who exactly wear the faith? What's their story, etc. Also, Otherword. It's that rock song during that opening cinematic.
This and A Fleeting Dream for me. Those songs make me go, alright, I guess it's time to cry.
To the Moon, Everything's Alright. Also for River.
While Everything is Alright is amazing, For River is the song of the game, and one that most people don't forget.
This was our first dance at my wedding.
My husband and I were long distance for a super long time, and To the Moon was one of the first games we played together, online, so it's so special to us both. Practically everything from Kan Gao and Laura Shigehara.
Radio in Fallout 3 and Doom 4. It's me. 3 Dog. Awoo. Unemployment is down, stocks are up, and the UN has just declared global peace for Eva. Jingle Jangle. I will never not start jamming when the big instrumental bridge happens in that song. War never changes.
Choppin' That Meat is all I heard in my head for months. I thought Fallout 3's soundtrack was better than Fallout 4's, though that Skeeter Davis End of the World is just magic.
Boongo Bongo Bongo, I don't wanna leave the Congo, oh no 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 no.
Ain't that a kick in the head?
Corridors of Time. Bam.
There it is.
Best answer.
That song is just so damn good, from a soundtrack that is just so damn good.
Brink of Time version. Old school RuneScape login music. Reminds me of all the fun of my childhood, then I get pretty sad. I go back and listen to a few to remind myself that there was a time being happy and carefree existed. It helps. Makes me remember my dad too, damn.
Came here to see if RS was mentioned anywhere. They have always seemed to maintain a pretty brilliant array of music in the game. Scape main?
Some nostalgia right there. I haven't played RuneScape since probably 2003, but for some reason I can never forget those lead horns, percussions, and fleeting woodwind instruments when booting up the login screen. Anything from Nier Automata. The Zelda theme. Personally, Wind Waker is the one that gets me. I think that soundtrack was the most awe-inspiring music I've felt in a Zelda game. The sailing theme across the Great Sea was a banger. Was looking for this comment. Dragon Roost Island 2 was always a fab for me. For me it's any Ocarina of Time songs.
Instant throwback for me.
Chrono Trigger, Wind Scene. Okay, let's be serious. A whole Chrono Trigger soundtrack is a masterpiece.
Secrets of the Forest?
Bro.
Yasunori Mitsuda is a fucking legend for this soundtrack alone.
I can't believe it was his first work as a composer for a video game. OMG, right. The soundtrack made me buy the game, it's so glorious. To Faraway Times and Epilogue to Good Friends put me in such a happy place. Song of Healing, Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask and Wind Waker both had incredible music. The Astral Observatory theme from that game gets me too. Yay, it's hard to put words to that one. It's mystical, sad, dark, foreboding yet hopeful in one package. Really well written. The Destiny 1 original song from the menu. That twinkle from the drop-down menu on PS4. Nostalgic enough to make a grown man cry. Played last week for shits and giggles. Man, there are some guns I sorely miss.
But that opening screen made the hairs on the back of my back raise. There are a lot of tracks that are simply amazing in that game, but the opening.
Damn. Destiny may have not been the best game recently, but the soundtracks are always good. This.
Even LF had an amazing soundtrack. It's the one thing they can never miss.
Looking forward to the final Shape track.
They made the composer, who's been with Bungie since Marathon, redundant a few months ago, so God knows what Final Shape will sound like either.
I'm kind of done with them, which is just very sad. The soundtrack was made before they got rid of them. Main theme of Final Fantasy VII. Just the beginning of that piano gets me every time.
That entire soundtrack for me, it just invokes the most magical of memories, and Tifa's theme in particular never ceases to bring a tear to me eye. It's the most beautiful OST I've ever heard. Hades gets an honorable mention, but that invokes a different feeling.
Sami. On Rebirth, you can play the piano and one of the pieces you can play is Tifa's theme.
Assuming you're hitting the prompts, it's such a beautiful rendition of it.
I was going to post Tifa's theme.
As beautiful as the orchestration of the remakes are, there's something about those melodies being played with those exact sounds that are so emotional for me.
It's so nostalgic and somber. Yes.
When I bought this game, I had never played an RPG.
I was young and didn't understand all the mechanics and systems involved.
But after a few hours, I was captivated.
Nothing I had ever played before was so expansive. The story was enthralling. Multitudes of different enemies kept me exploring more and more.
The characters and customization was a new world to me. And Tifa's giant polygon bazambas made me feel some stuff.
I bought FFVII as a regular kid who played video games sometimes. I walked away a man-child gamer.
Every time I hear the FFVII theme, I'm brought back to those carefree days.
Brother. Fucking nail meathead.
Same for me.
I was like 10 or 11, my older brother was 12, I played the demo and liked it a lot. Finally got birthday money and could buy one game. My brother wanted me to buy Resident Evil cause we couldn't get far when we rented it, and we finally got a memory card. Within hours he was floored. I bought FF7 instead. Game felt like a whole nother world to me, like I had never experienced. My brother and I were floored with the remake. He played through the first set already. He played on PlayStation, myself on PC. I'm trying to wait till all come out, as I played a bit into the first one so far and was like, man, I don't want to cut this story into pieces. Now with second out, hopefully within 5 years or so I can. Sadly, my bro died last year at 38 years old. Fucking blows, and game memories like this that I solely share only with my brother are a melancholy of emotions now. I'm still super happy it's out. I just wish he was here with me to beat it. FF7 opening theme and Aerith's theme for me as well. I was 12 when it came out in 1997. I remember pre-ordering it and buying the strategy guide with all my hard-earned allowance from doing chores. Internet was in its infancy and I didn't really even have a good computer. I remember all the hype and reviews came from reading video game magazines in Barnes & Nobles. When I finally got home and popped it in my PS1, the graphics and opening absolutely blew my mind away. Then of course the Eret
scene was insane to me as well, since it was almost non-existent to kill off main characters back then. That game and the music will always bring back good memories of simple times as a kid, just enjoying games without the internet, live service, etc. That era and console was just amazing as a middle school, early teenager. So many genre-defining games: MGS, Xenogears, FF7, FFT, Castlevania, SOT-N, Gran Turismo 2, Tony Hawk, Suikoden 2, etc. Miss those days.
Another scene that is heavily etched in my mind for whatever reason was the Parasite Eve opera scene. I played a couple RPGs for SNES, FF3 and Chrono Trigger, but I was probably too young and didn't really get into them at the time. More just played Super Mario World, Mario Kart, and NHL 95 a lot with my friend. But PS1 really got me into RPGs and heavily story-driven games. Final Fantasy VII has one of the bleakest environments of any game. You feel so small taking on impossibly big powers, trying to save a dying world. Somehow the theme captures all of that, with a tinge of hope and adventure. Remember when they announced the remake and those 3 notes came in? The audience was losing its fucking mind. Pure joy. Just in case you've never seen it, https://youtube.be/osnumquipmg c=3 idigzim 2 tomner 4 . Am I missing the music? I hear the audience lose it when they see Barrett and Cloud, but I can't hear any music. Ah man, it's there, but yeah, the crowd are drowning it out. Here, try this. https://youtube.be/way1p8 zgvqm c=59 thw-mdd. I'm not sure what the main theme even is. Is it Aerith's theme? I'd say opening, bombing mission is pretty much what I think of when I think about FF7. That being said, the complete soundtrack is awesome. https://youtube.be/qfs8-qgauhu c=kavuvemcakesquivik3. Basically the open world theme. Top tier for sure, arguably the greatest video game of all time. This whole soundtrack is what I was going to say. It's incredible. Genova is still such a banger. Any FF7 track really. The original soundtrack still hits harder than any rendition that has been made since. Beautiful track. Minecraft without a doubt. The nostalgia is too much. The piano tune while looking at the setting sun. Man. Subwoofer lullaby. Sweden. It's always Sweden that hits me.